Stranded on Ice Moon, the wind howled across the icy surface of the moon Zeta 9. The sky was dark, filled with swirling snow and purple clouds. Two figures moved slowly through the storm, one human, one alien. Their ship had crash-landed during a sudden meteor storm, and now they were stranded. Lieutenant Jack Carter held his arm tightly to his side, blood dripping from a cut on his shoulder. Beside him walked Kalira, a young alien cadet from the Tirani species. Her skin shimmered with soft blue light, and her long black hair was now stuck to her face from the cold. She wasn't supposed to be with him. Her kind didn't trust humans, but now there was no one else. Their emergency tent was small, just enough for one. As they reached it, Jack collapsed inside with a groan. Kalira looked around, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. Then she entered the tent and zipped it closed behind her. "We have limited heat," she said. Her voice was calm but cold. "And you're bleeding." Jack nodded, shivering. "Yeah, no kidding." She handed him a small patch, some kind of alien medical tech. He pressed it on his wound, wincing. Then silence. The wind roared outside, shaking the tent. Inside, the two sat in awkward silence, breath steaming in the air. The temperature inside, the tent was dropping fast. Jack rubbed his hands together. "We're gonna freeze if help doesn't come soon." Kalira tilted her head. "My people can survive longer in the cold, but you..." She paused. "You may not survive the night." Jack gave a weak chuckle. Comforting. Then Kalira did something unexpected. She reached behind her and pulled out a long, rolled-up sleeping bag made from alien thermal fabric. She stared at Jack for a second, then unzipped it fully and laid it between them. "You will share it," she said plainly. Jack blinked. "What?" "There is only one. It holds heat better if two bodies are inside." "You are weak to cold." Jack hesitated. "Sharing a sleeping bag with an alien girl?" He looked at her. Her face was serious. She wasn't joking. She didn't care about modesty or awkwardness. To her, this was survival. He gave a nervous laugh. "All right, if it's that or freezing to death." They both crawled in. The sleeping bag was tight. Kalira's skin was strangely warm, her body giving off more heat than he expected. Her back pressed lightly against his chest. Jack didn't move. His heart beat faster. "Don't misunderstand this," she said quietly. "This is not bonding, it's survival." "Right," Jack whispered. "Survival." They lay there, side by side, listening to the storm outside. The sleeping bag slowly warmed up, and the air between them grew still. Kalira spoke again. "Human males have strange hearts. I can feel yours through the fabric." Jack blushed. "Sorry, I'm not used to cuddling with aliens." "I am not cuddling," she snapped, but her voice had a tiny smile in it. Time passed. The storm grew louder. Jack started to drift off when he heard it. A scratch. Something was outside the tent. He held his breath. Another sound, like claws, dragging across the surface. Kalira's body tensed. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Jack whispered. She turned slightly. "It could be an ice beast. They smell warmth." "Lovely," Jack muttered. They stayed quiet, not daring to move. Outside, something growled. Kalira slowly reached under the sleeping bag and pulled out a small energy blade, hidden under her belt. She whispered, "If it enters, I fight. You stay low." Jack nodded, more scratching, then silence. Then, footsteps moving away. They waited. After a full minute, Kalira relaxed. "It's gone." Jack let out a long breath. "You sure?" "No," she said, "but we must sleep anyway. We need strength." Jack didn't argue. He was too tired. His eyelids began to close. But before sleep took him, he felt something. Kalira's tail gently wrapped around his leg. He said nothing. She said nothing. But somehow, in that cold tent on an alien moon, something began to change between them. 2. Close for comfort hook, start. Her body was warm. Too warm. Jack couldn't move without brushing against her soft skin, and Kalira's breath touched his neck as she whispered, "If you touch my tail again, human, I'll break your fingers." Jack lay completely still. The sleeping bag was designed for one. Fitting two adults, especially one alien girl with a swaying tail, meant zero space. Kalira's back was against his chest, her soft hair tickling his chin. Her species ran, hotter than humans, and her body radiated warmth like a heated blanket. He tried not to think about it. She, however, had no such concerns. "This is uncomfortable," she muttered. "You think?" Jack whispered. "I can't feel my arm, and your tail's around my leg again." "It does that when I sleep." Jack rolled his eyes in the dark. "Fantastic." Outside, the wind still howled. Snow whipped around the emergency tent, shaking it now and then. But inside, it was too quiet. The kind of quiet where strange thoughts start crawling into your head. Jack swallowed. "So, you always sleep like this? With strangers?" "I do not consider you a stranger," she replied calmly. "You are a fellow soldier, a primitive one, but still." "Wow, that's the nicest insult I've heard all day." She ignored the sarcasm. "Your species fascinates me. You panic over skin contact. You burn red on your cheeks. Is that shame?" Jack exhaled, trying not to laugh. "It's called blushing, and it's not shame. It's human biology reacting to being squished next to a half-naked alien girl. I'm not naked. You're wearing skin-tight armor that's mostly ripped." She went silent for a second, then quietly added, "It was not designed for snowstorms." Jack sighed. "Yeah, I figured." Moments passed. They tried not to move, but Jack couldn't help but feel the strange rhythm of her breathing. Calm, slow, almost comforting. Then she spoke again. "Do you fear me?" Jack blinked. "What?" "No. Why would I? My people do. Even some of my own clan fear me because of what I am." He hesitated. "What are you?" "A warrior bred through selective bloodlines. My body is stronger, faster, but it also comes with complications." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Kalira hesitated, then softly said, "I do not sleep beside anyone, not even my own kind. My instincts don't allow it." That made Jack go completely still. "So why me?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But your heartbeat, it doesn't threaten me." Neither of them spoke after that. Not for a long while. An hour later, the wind outside dropped just slightly. Jack stirred. He felt warmer now. Almost too warm. Sweat was forming on his neck. Kalira was pressed against him, now facing his chest. In the dim blue emergency light, her eyes were half closed, but watching him. He tried to lean back, but had nowhere to go. She didn't blink. "You're different than other humans." "How so?" "You don't look at me like I'm a weapon or a trophy. You treat me like someone real." Jack blinked, unsure what to say. He tried humor. "Well, when we get out of here, I'll write a glowing review on your hospitality." She smiled slightly, just a twitch of her lips. It made something in his chest tighten. Then suddenly, a noise broke the moment. A low hum, not wind, not beast. It was technology. Jack reached for the comms beacon. The light was blinking red. "No signal yet," he muttered. "But something's close. Some kind of power surge." Kalira sat up, pushing away the sleeping bag. "Then it's not natural. We're not alone." Jack grabbed his jacket and slowly unzipped the tent. Outside, everything looked the same. Endless snow and ice. But then far in the distance, a soft blue glow moved across the horizon. Kalira narrowed her eyes. "That's not a rescue signal." "No," Jack said quietly. "That's something else." Something alien was moving through the snow. Not rescue, not beast. Something watching. Back in the tent, Kalira zipped the flap shut. Jack looked at her. "If it's a trap, we stay put." She nodded. But before lying back down, she did something Jack didn't expect. She gently touched his hand. "I don't understand humans," she whispered, "but I feel safer next to you than I ever did with my own squad." Jack looked down at her fingers, small, blue, delicate, but warm with something he hadn't felt in a long time. "Trust." He nodded once, then lay beside her again, and this time, she curled closer on her own. Shadows outside the tent hook. Start. A hand. A clawed hand pressed softly against the outside of the tent. Neither of them moved. Then the voice came, low, guttural, and completely inhuman. Warm, inside. The tent's thin fabric rippled. Again. Jack didn't breathe. Kalira had frozen too, her long ears twitching toward the sound. Outside, something was moving slowly in a circle around them. The wind had stopped, but the cold air still burned against the tent wall. The silence made the sounds more terrifying. Crunch, crunch, drag. The noise of clawed feet in the snow. Heavy, slow. Kalira's whisper broke the silence. "It's not beast, it's intelligent," Jack whispered back. "Friendly." She shook, her head. Too quiet, and it spoke. Jack carefully pulled the emergency flare pistol from his pack. "If it tries to come in—" "No," she interrupted, gripping his hand. "If you attack it without knowing what it is, it may call others." The hand outside dragged across the side of the tent again, softly, like it was curious. Jack's skin crawled. "I thought this moon was uninhabited," he whispered. Kalira's golden eyes glowed faintly in the dark. It was, according to all records. The thing outside didn't leave. It just stood there, watching, listening. Then, without warning, it spoke again. One warm, one soft, one not like others. Jack felt the blood drain from his face. Kalira reached for her blade. "It's describing us." The tent trembled. They held their breath, but then, footsteps again, this time moving away. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Slowly, deliberately, it vanished into the snowstorm. Minutes passed. Neither of them moved. Jack finally broke the silence. "Do you think it's gone?" Kalira didn't answer right away. Then, "No. I think it wants us to believe it's gone." Jack ran a hand through his hair. "Great. Stuck on an ice moon with a curious alien creeper." She gave a small, amused sound. "Welcome to the edge of known space." Still, the tent felt like a cage now. Jack couldn't relax. "That thing knew we were here." "How?" Kalira hesitated, then tapped the heat sensor embedded in the tent's wall. "Our warmth is a beacon. Some creatures can feel it, taste it in the air." Jack's mind spun. "Taste it?" She nodded. "Some predators evolved with no eyes, but they sense body heat like smell." Jack looked at the emergency heater in the corner. "So we're basically glowing meat to it." Kalira gave him a sharp look. "Then we do not act like prey." Jack grinned slightly. "You sound like a commander now." She turned away. "I've trained to be one since I was 7. There was a strange softness in her voice. Jack noticed it. "You were forced into military life?" Kalira didn't respond for a moment, then said, "My bloodline was made for war. I was never asked." Jack stared at her. "That's messed up." She finally looked at him. "And what about you? Did your world ask you to be a soldier?" Jack sighed. "No. But I said yes. I didn't have much else going for me." The tension between them faded just a little. She studied him. "You don't seem like a killer." "You either." They shared a look, and then the wind screamed again. Hours passed. They took turns staying awake. But nothing returned. Not the voice. not the clawed hand, only silence and snow. Finally, Jack closed his eyes. He dreamed of Earth, of green trees, hot coffee, and soft music. When he woke up, Kalira was gone. He bolted upright, heart racing. Then he heard a sound outside. A sharp, grunting noise followed. By a crunch, he unzipped the tent and crawled out. The cold hit like a slap. Kalira was standing 10 meters away, facing something. Jack's eyes followed her line of sight, and there it was. A figure, half buried in snow. 8 feet tall, covered in thick, gray fur. Its eyes were like burning coals. It wasn't moving. Kalira held her blade, breathing heavily. Then, she turned to Jack. "It was watching us," she said. Jack stared. "You killed it?" She shook her head. "No, I found it like this." Jack stepped closer. The creature's body was stiff, frozen solid, but the strange part was its hands. Both were pressed together, almost like it had been praying. "What was it doing out here?" Jack muttered. Kalira stepped closer too. "This isn't just a hunting moon, this might be sacred ground." Jack looked at her. "To who?" Kalira looked around at the white, endless snow. "We need to leave, fast." Back in the tent, they packed their few supplies. Jack checked the comms again. Suddenly, a green light blinked. His eyes widened. "Signal." He turned the screen. A faint message appeared. "Shuttle inbound. ETA. Hours." Kalira looked relieved, but Jack didn't smile, because when he looked up again, the tent flap was open, and they had both zipped it shut. "Trust one breath at a time, Hook. Start." Jack froze. The tent flap had been opened from the inside, but neither of them touched it. Kalira stared at him with wide, golden eyes. Then, "Something was in here with us." A silence fell between them. The snow outside had stopped falling, but the air was heavier now, like the storm had passed, but something worse had been left behind. Jack slowly moved toward the tent flap. He knelt and examined the edge. No footprints, no claw marks, just the flap swinging gently in the cold wind. He zipped it shut again, slower this time. His fingers trembled, but not from the cold. "It watched us sleep," he whispered. "It opened the flap and just stood there." Kalira's eyes narrowed. "And we didn't wake." She was right. It had been so quiet, so careful. If it meant harm, they'd be dead already. Jack sat down. Why didn't it attack? Kalira lowered herself beside him, her breath misting between them. "I don't think it wanted to kill us," she said softly. "I think it was curious." Jack looked at her. "Curious about what?" Kalira looked away. "Maybe us." Later, inside the warmth of the sleeping bag again, neither of them spoke for a while. But sleep didn't come easily. Jack lay, with his back to Kalira, staring at the tent ceiling. Then her voice came, quiet and uncertain. "Do humans have soul bonds?" Jack blinked. "What?" She hesitated, then explained. "In my culture, some warriors develop an emotional thread. It connects two people who survive death together. It's rare, unspoken, but strong." Jack didn't know what to say. "You mean like love?" "No," she said quickly. "Not romantic, it's deeper, older. Trust, without reason." Jack was quiet for a long time. Then he finally spoke. "Yeah. Humans. We don't have a word like that. But I think we feel it too. Especially in war." Kalira's body shifted closer, barely touching his back. "I feel it now," she whispered, "and it scares me." Jack turned around slowly, facing her. Their eyes met in the soft blue light. She looked away. "You'll leave after rescue. Go back to your kind, and I'll go back to mine. We'll pretend this didn't happen." Jack studied her face. The sharp cheekbones, the strange markings along her jaw, and the loneliness behind her tough eyes. "You don't want that?" he asked gently. She said nothing, but her silence was an answer. Suddenly, the comms beacon blinked again. A new signal. "Rescue ETA. 45 minutes. Jack's heart jumped. "They're close." Kalira's lips pressed into a thin line. "Good." But she didn't sound happy. She pulled away slightly, like the warmth between them was no longer safe. Jack sat up and spoke carefully. "What are you afraid of, Kalira?" She didn't respond. He added, "I'm not your enemy. I never was." Then she looked at him. Really. Looked at him, not as a human, not as a soldier, but as someone who stayed when he could have run. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You touched me when I was shivering. You held me when my own people would have turned away. And you didn't even think it meant anything." Jack tilted his head. "It meant something to me." Kalira's golden eyes widened. Her breath caught for just a second. Then she reached forward and did something she hadn't done in all her life. She placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. She stayed like that for several seconds, feeling the steady beat, warm, human, alive. Then she said, "Your heart never lies, does it?" Jack shook his head. "Not when I'm scared. Or honest." She nodded slowly, then curled back beside him, this time resting her head lightly against his shoulder. Outside, the sky began to glow. A faint light, sunrise or maybe the rescue shuttle's beacon, touched the edge of the icy hills. But inside the tent, everything had changed. The space between them was no longer about heat or survival. It was something deeper. Kalira whispered, "If we never see each other again, would you remember this moment?" Jack smiled faintly. "It'll haunt me every night." She looked up. "In a bad way?" "No," he said. "In the best way." Just then, the comms blinked green. The DI shuttle was landing nearby. Rescue was here. Kalira slowly sat up, brushing snowflakes from her hair. Back to duty. Back to rules. Back to their separate worlds. But just before stepping outside, she turned and handed Jack a small metal ring with a glowing red gem. He looked at it, confused. She said, "It's a soul token. We never give it to outsiders." Jack stared. "Why, me?" he asked. Kalira's voice was barely a whisper now. "Because you touched my spirit, and it didn't flinch." The signal that never came hook. Start. The rescue ship didn't land. It flew overhead, and kept going. Kalira stared up into the sky, her voice tight with confusion. "They saw us. Why didn't they stop?" The sound of the engines faded. The sky returned to silence. Snowflakes drifted gently to the ground as Jack and Kalira stood in stunned disbelief, watching the shuttle disappear into the clouds. They flew over us," Jack said almost to himself. Kalira's hand tightened around her blade. "And ignored us." Jack checked the beacon again. The signal had turned green for 5 full minutes. Rescue confirmed. Now it blinked red again. "No. Response," he muttered. "It's like we never existed." Kalira turned sharply. "This is not an accident." Her eyes scanned the frozen landscape, every muscle tense. She wasn't just confused, she was angry. Jack frowned. "What are you thinking?" She turned toward him slowly. "Someone canceled the pickup, on purpose." Back inside the tent, Jack tried to send a distress ping manually, tapping into every backup system the beacon had. Nothing worked. No reply. Meanwhile, Kalira sat silently, staring at the ice outside. Her face was unreadable. Finally, Jack broke the silence. "You said your people don't trust humans." She nodded. "Think someone found out we were sharing space?" Kalira didn't answer immediately. Then, "Not just sharing space, sharing warmth, sleeping beside an alien male, is forbidden in my caste." Jack's eyebrows rose. "Even to survive?" She looked away. Survival doesn't erase dishonor. Jack leaned back. So, they left us here to die. Because we touched shoulders in a sleeping bag? She glanced at him. Because I trusted you, that's worse to them. Jack stared, jaw tight. Then your people are insane. Kalira didn't argue, but her silence was loud. Hours passed. The sun barely moved in the sky, hanging low like a fading lamp. The temperature dropped again. Jack looked at Kalira. She hadn't eaten, hadn't spoken. He moved closer and gently set down a heat bar. Earth food. Not very tasty, but better than freezing. She looked at it, then at him. You always care for others? She asked. Jack gave a tired smile. Only the blue ones who give me alien jewelry. To his surprise, she smiled. Just a flicker. Then she took the bar. They sat side by side in the tent, silent but connected. Jack glanced at her out of the corner of his eye. The strong alien warrior who once threatened to break his fingers for touching her tail, now looked small, tired, alone. I'll fix this, Jack said suddenly. Kalira looked at him. How? He held up a cable. If I reroute power through the emergency pack, I might boost the signal manually. It'll burn out the battery, but we'll get one last shot. She hesitated. It's dangerous. Jack shrugged. So is freezing. Kalira paused, then nodded. Then I will help. They worked together under the glow of the last emergency lamp. Her fingers were faster, his hands steadier. As they adjusted wires and rerouted circuits, their shoulders brushed more than once, but this time, neither pulled away. Finally, Jack plugged in the last cable. Ready? He asked. Kalira placed her hand over his. Send it. The beacon lit up, bright, buzzing with raw energy. The screen flickered, flashed, then held steady. A message scrolled across. Unknown signal detected, identity not confirmed. Jack typed fast. Sending our ID tags, coordinates, everything. Seconds passed. Then a new message appeared. Request received. Rejected. Do not transmit again. Jack stared at the screen, heart sinking. They blocked us. Kalira's voice was low. They want us to disappear. The light on the beacon died. Smoke curled from the cable. Their last battery, gone. No power. No rescue. Nothing. Back inside the sleeping bag, Jack could feel Kalira shaking. Not from cold, but from something worse. He turned to face her. You okay? She looked at him, tears threatening behind her fierce golden eyes. My whole life. I followed rules, I obeyed orders, I became a perfect warrior, and now I'm nothing. Jack reached out and touched her cheek, just once. Soft, gentle. You're not nothing, he said. You're still alive. You're still you. She closed her eyes, and this time, she leaned into his touch. They lay there, close. No more awkwardness. No fear, just two souls abandoned by their worlds, holding on to the only warmth they had left. Each other. Kalira whispered, If this is the end, I'm glad it's with you. Jack gave a faint smile. It's not the end. How? Can you be sure? He pointed to the horizon. Because I've got one more crazy idea. When heat becomes something else, hook. Start. Kalira woke with her fingers tangled in his shirt. Her voice was a whisper, shaky, not her usual soldier's tone. This heat, it's not just from the sleeping bag anymore. The storm had passed, but the cold was still deadly. The tent was still standing, just barely. And inside, two souls lay wrapped in the same heat, same silence. But something had changed. Jack had woken up earlier, but didn't move. Kalira was curled next to him, closer than ever before. Her leg rested across his. Her hand, somehow, was flat against his chest, feeling his heartbeat. He didn't know when it happened, maybe during the night, maybe during one of the dreams. Maybe during that moment she whispered she didn't want to die alone. She stirred, slowly opened her golden eyes, then looked at her hand and left it there. I should move, she murmured. You didn't? Jack replied. She didn't look away? Because it felt safe. He gave a tired smile. So did you. They didn't say anything for a while after that. Just listened to the soft crackling of snow against the tent and each other's breath. But then Kalira leaned forward, not in fear, not in duty, but in choice. Her forehead rested against his. Jack stayed still. This wasn't survival anymore. It was something. New Kalira finally pulled back, her face unreadable. She stared at the tent ceiling, expression tight. There's something you don't know about my kind, she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. Is this the part where you tell me I've violated some ancient mating ritual? Her eyes flicked toward him. Almost, Jack blinked. Wait, what? Kalira sat up slightly, propping herself on one elbow. My species bonds differently, she explained. Not like humans. We don't form families the same way. We don't have marriage. But when we share breath and warmth without force or ritual, the body responds. Jack's stomach twisted. What do you mean, responds? She looked down. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. It starts a chemical chain inside me. My system begins to align with yours. Jack slowly sat up too. Like imprinting? She nodded. Yes, but deeper. More permanent. Jack's throat went dry. You're telling me sleeping in that bag with you might have started a bond? She didn't answer. That was the answer. He let out a nervous laugh. Well, now what? Kalira looked away. Now. I decide if I accept it. Jack swallowed. And if you don't? Then I will carry this fire alone, she said softly, and live half broken. That sentence hit him harder than anything so far. Half broken. He looked at her. Really looked at her. The proud warrior who once barked orders. The elite alien who slept with one eye open. The girl who offered him warmth in a frozen world. And now she sat before him, asking, without words, not to be left behind. Jack reached for her hand. Held it. Then don't carry it alone, he said quietly. If I'm part of this bond, let me choose it too. Kalira's eyes widened. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Are you sure? Your kind, your people, they won't accept this. Jack smiled faintly. Good thing I don't care what my kind thinks anymore. She let out a slow, trembling breath. Then did something she never thought she would. She leaned forward and touched her forehead to his once more. Not in fear, not in duty, in acceptance. Their closeness deepened. The temperature in the sleeping bag rose not just from body heat, but from what was building between them. Jack whispered, So what now? Kalira's voice was barely audible. Now we wait. For the last night. Jack blinked. Last night? She looked out toward the horizon through the half-open flap. The storm will return tomorrow, she said. Colder, meaner, and we no longer have power. Jack swallowed hard. You think we won't survive it? Kalira didn't answer. But she pulled the sleeping bag tighter around them. They spent the day preparing, reinforcing the tent, boiling snow for water, sharing the last rations, but every time their hands touched, something new passed between them. A glance, a smile, a shared memory. Two souls growing warmer in a place meant to freeze them both. As night fell again, Kalira pressed close, her body warmer than ever, her voice lower than a whisper. This is no longer about surviving, she said. Jack understood. He looked into her eyes and whispered, Then let's make this night count. Return, but changed forever hook, start. The second rescue shuttle didn't call ahead. It just landed, silent, black, and surrounded by armed soldiers. Kalira looked at Jack and whispered, They're not here to save us. They're here to erase what happened. The sun hadn't risen yet, Only a faint gray light lit the sky when the black shuttle appeared over the ice horizon. It made no sound, only a ripple of wind and a low hum as it touched the ground 20 meters from there. Tent Jack and Kalira stood just outside. Hand in hand, they didn't speak, they didn't run, they just watched. The door slid open. Out stepped 6 figures, 3 from the human side, 3 from Kalira's species. All wore official military armor. All carried rifles, and none of them smiled. Jack's breath caught. Not a rescue team, he muttered. Kalira whispered. No, a cleanup crew. A voice rang out, cold, sharp, and commanding. This is classified territory. Drop all devices. Step away from each other. Now. Kalira tensed. They're trying to separate us. Jack glanced at her. They don't know we bonded. Maybe they suspect, she said. Or maybe they want to prevent it. 2 soldiers approached Kalira. She didn't flinch, but her hand gripped Jack's tighter. One of the human officers moved toward Jack, gun half raised. This isn't personal, soldier, he said. We're under orders. You were never meant to share contact. Not at that level. Jack stared at him. What's the threat? That we learn to care about each other? The officer's eyes narrowed. Exactly. The alien commander stepped forward now, tall, armored in silver. Her voice was like ice. You shamed your caste, Kalira. We expected obedience, not emotional infection. Kalira didn't back down. Instead, she stepped forward and declared loud enough for both crews to hear. I bonded with this human. I chose it. I feel no shame. The silence that followed was cold and sharp as the ice under their feet. One of the alien guards muttered, She admits it. It's irreversible now, the human officer sighed. We'll be forced to file for cross-species quarantine. This becomes a political incident. Jack laughed bitterly. You're scared of love? That's what this is about? Kalira turned to him. Her voice was strong. It's not just about love, Jack. It's about what love does. It changes us. That's what they fear. The commanders looked at each other. They didn't want this to spread. Didn't want soldiers from 2 enemy species to start trusting, to start bonding, to stop fighting. They issued one final order. Separate them. By force, if necessary. Jack moved first, not to run, not to fight, but to pull something from his belt. The soul token. He held it up, glowing red in the gray morning light. She gave this to me, he said clearly. That means something. To her, to me, and now, to you all. The alien soldiers gasped. Even the commander stepped back. Kalira's voice rang out. He is now part of my line. Harm him, and you declare war on my family. The alien commander hesitated. Everyone did. The token made it official, irreversible, unbreakable. Jack stood tall. You came here to bury a mistake, but maybe you uncovered a future. There was a long silence. Then the human officer sighed again and muttered, Damn it, send the report. This bond's protected under cultural law. Barely. Kalira smirked. Barely is enough. The teams pulled back. No celebration, no apology, just silent acceptance. The cost of keeping the peace was letting 2 soldiers walk away. Together. Inside the shuttle, Kalira sat beside Jack. They didn't speak for a while. They didn't need to. Their fingers stayed linked. 2 enemies by birth. Now something else entirely. As the shuttle left, the ice moon behind, Jack finally broke the silence. So, what happens now? Kalira looked at him, eyes soft. Now we build something that scares them even more. He raised an eyebrow. And what's that? She smiled. Hope.